Spending isn't getting cut. Epstein files aren't being released. Like all of these promises are just not happening. And they're not happening for a reason. And it's because the Republicans don't want it to. They don't actually believe in this stuff.
Hot take there by Dave Smith, lashing out at Republicans over their spending and betraying DOGE. This is the story of my lifetime. This is the Republican Party of my lifetime. I've seen it a billion times, but a lot of people thought this time it might be different, with Elon Musk helming DOGE and some true promises of government cuts. But let's hear what he has to say. I can't wait to hear it. And please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Speaker Johnson, who increased the debt $1 trillion every 100 days since being named, says, I am a fiscal hawk. I just thought that was a great introduction. So here is Speaker Johnson talking about the latest monstrosity of a spending bill.
What's going to happen?
Well, the Joint Committee on Taxation is projecting just 0.03% on growth. But let me just ask you, I want you to address the concerns of your colleagues, Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Rand Paul. Why doesn't this bill do more to address the debt and deficit, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, well, listen, I agree with my good friend Ron Johnson, for example. A lot of the comments that he stated about government spending. We have north of $36 trillion federal debt right now, and it is the largest national security concern for the U.S. I am a fiscal hawk. Many of my Republican colleagues in the House feel the same way.
Everyone can stop and laugh right now because we've heard that one before.
But it did not. We didn't get in this situation overnight, Kristen. It took us decades, many decades of Congress's, frankly, mismanagement of the public fisc to get in this situation. And the last 4 years, the Biden administration increased spending dramatically. So it's going to take us a while to get out of it. We can't flip a magic switch and reverse it overnight. But this is the largest step forward in the right direction.
Yes, you can. What is this? That we didn't get here overnight? Therefore, we can't flip a switch? Like, well, actually, you can. You could just stop spending all of our goddamn money. Like, it's just such a ridiculous thing to sit here and be like, well, look, I agree with you. I'm a fiscal hawk. And in fact, the fact that we're $37 trillion in debt, this is our #1 national security threat. It's like, oh, all right, great. So then we're all on the same page here. So we definitely shouldn't add to the debt then, right? Because it's our #1 national security. So he's going to sit here and say, listen, I agree with you. The president agrees with you. Every Republican agrees. We're all in agreement. And sure, we have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But, we got to add a little bit more to the debt. I mean, you can't Biden spend so much.
Yeah, this is so right. Dave's on fire right here. And one thing that the Republicans didn't have to do was offer, for the first time in history, a $1 trillion Pentagon budget and have Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, boast about it. Like how great this is that we have introduced a proposal for a $1 trillion Pentagon budget when the highest one under Biden, I think, was almost $900 billion. So that's more than 10% up, and DOGE's cuts were projected to be $2 trillion. They ended up, I think, something around $150 billion. And the Republicans in the aggregate are just raising spending. They passed the CR, which continued Biden-level spending, funding USAID and other programs that DOGE had cut. It's insane for this to be viewed as anything more than Washington politics, spending once you're in power, and just having the cuts be campaign rhetoric.
Just turn this thing around. Like, I don't know, like it's on the level of being like, you're like, hey, you're morbidly obese and you ate nothing from dusk till dawn or whatever. You ate nothing from morning to night, let's say. You did nothing but eat cheesecake. Like, this is really bad policy and it's going to result in disaster. And you go, yeah, I'm with you. It's the biggest threat to our body right now is that we're so morbidly obese. And you go, yeah, but I noticed you just bought 2 more cheesecakes. And you go, well, look, I mean, we ate a ton of cheesecake yesterday and I can't just hit some magical button where we don't eat cheesecake today. It's like, no, actually, yes, you can. You could just not have any more. That is totally possible. But you're telling me if you were to say, hey, I can't just push some magical button where we pay off the $37 trillion in debt, like, okay, fine. But you could definitely write a bill that doesn't add to it. It's just such a ridiculous argument.
Absolutely perfect comparison there by Dave. What's so crazy too is especially when Congress is controlled by Republicans in both houses, and they have the presidency, and generally they have the majority of the Supreme Court. So you can't just get away with saying that we can't do this. You can do this. Trump has incredible popularity with his base. If he put his persona behind it, his personality, his marketing behind cuts, you could get this done. Especially when Elon was involved too. You had two of the most popular people in the world among their bases with a mandate behind them electorally. And you're telling me you can't get that done? They could have gotten that done. They don't want to. They want big government just branded in their own direction.
And I'm as much of a cheesecake hawk as anybody. We just got to eat a little bit, just a couple more cakes. What are we talking about here, guys? Like, you don't have to spend any more money.
Or in your cheesecake example, if you're caught that red-handed, you can at least go, well, for tomorrow, I'm only ordering one cheesecake. And we're making improvements here. And we're going to wheedle down, but when you order, if you ate 2 today and you're telling you, hey, I know it's a problem and you're going to 3 tomorrow, doesn't sound like you actually care about the problem. And so for him to be up there and go, oh yeah, I agree with all these people. I'm a hawk just as much as they are, but at the moment we gotta spend more than we ever did. And I can't tell you when we're ever gonna ramp that down or make the correction, but now's just not the time. Doesn't sound like you're a fiscal hawk, my friend.
As I've said before, Rob, if DC had a motto, it would be "Now's not the time." Now's never the time.
Unless
the
it's
only
war.
thing. Yes. Oh, yeah. When it comes to dropping bombs
We're
on
shutting
innocent
down the
people,
country for COVID.
then it's always the time. It's almost always the time to drop bombs on innocent people. But yeah, I'll say this. You had Donald Trump winning every swing state and the popular vote. You had a major cultural shift, major cultural awakening to the corruption of government. You had DOGE come in, which was enormously popular, and it was exposing all types of government corruption. You have a Republican, you have a House and a Senate whose slim majorities, but have majorities filled up by Republicans who all go off all day long about how they're against big government and they're for fiscal sanity, just like the speaker here said. He's a fiscal hawk. Now is the time. Now might be the only time. Now is the best time. It's the best goddamn shot we'd have to actually have some meaningful reduction in the size and scope in government. And the reason why we're not having that is because Mike Johnson loves big government and Donald Trump loves big government and the entire Republican establishment love big government. That's why we're going to continue to have big government. And don't let them fool you with any of this other bullshit. Sorry. Look, and to the entire MAGA movement, we're either just like the fucking Democrats or we're not. We're either in a cult as well, where one day we'll repeat the line, yes, sharp as a tack. Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. Joe Biden's so old and senile that Kamala Harris has to run. Yes, Kamala Harris is hope and joy. Yeah, like we're either cult members like them or we're fucking independent critical thinkers who are allowed to tell the truth. And the truth is that this was the absolute best time to actually cut some government spending. And the reason it's not happening is because almost no one in the Republican Party actually believes in that. And it's clear to see there's a few people, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, I'll even give what's his name, who they mentioned here, Ron Johnson. Okay, he's not quite as much of a hawk as I'd like him to be, but at least those guys do to some degree believe in cutting the size and scope of government. The rest of them simply don't.
Yeah, it's true. This is why Michael Malice says that conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit, because they come up with these crazy expenditure bills, this debt spending, and then their excuse when they pass it is something like, well, if Kamala Harris would have been elected, it would have been $50 billion more. Instead, when you're growing the federal budget regardless, that's not acceptable based upon the rhetoric, the small government rhetoric that they always abandon once they take power. This has happened under Boehner, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, Denny Hastert, and now Mike Johnson. My entire lifetime of Republican leadership has done this without fail. It's why Trump will be the biggest spending president compared to all of his predecessors. It's guaranteed. It could have been projected before he got elected. It was by many people.
And you're gonna call this thing a big, beautiful bill? It's just disgusting. And I'm sorry, what Mike Johnson is saying here is just, it's an insult to all of our intelligence. All right, let's keep playing. Bring it back just like a few seconds, Natalie, and let's play a little more from the clip before we wrap up.
Is the largest step forward in the right direction that Congress has ever made. I liken this to an aircraft carrier. You don't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime. It takes a mile of open ocean. This is the biggest turn in that wheel that we would have had in generations. And this is the first of a number of steps. This is a key point. This is not the only reconciliation bill. We're going to have a second budget reconciliation bill that follows after this. And we're beginning next week the appropriations process, which is the spending bills for government. And you're going to see a lot of the DOGE cuts and a lot of this new fiscal restraint reflected in what Congress does next. So stay tuned. This is
Let's
not
just
the end all
pause.
be all.
Let's just pause it right there for a second. Okay. No, you won't. We're both on record making our predictions now. No, you won't. You will not see a lot of the DOGE cuts reflected. Yeah, they'll find a way to spin it so that they can claim that some of them are. But I'm sorry. Look, again, all of these examples of like, it takes a long time to turn a ship around. All right. The problem is, like, let's say you're in a car and you're doing 90 miles an hour and you're headed off of a cliff. Okay. If I get behind the wheel and I step on the accelerator and now I push more on it and now we're doing 95 miles an hour, I can't really claim that I'm turning it around. And if spending is going up and the deficit's going up and the debt is going up, then you're not turning the ship around. You are accelerating in the direction of disaster. That is not being a fiscal hawk. And try to spin this any way you want to. And look, I'm just, again, there's some younger people who listen to this show. I have the benefit of a little bit of wisdom now that I'm getting old. I've just been through this before. I've been through this every Republican in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I was born during the Ronald Reagan administration. So I lived through a little bit as a baby of Ronald Reagan, but whatever. I was like 5 by the time he got out. But whatever. I've read a lot about it. I know about Ronald Reagan. George H.W. Bush was the second Republican president of my lifetime. George W. Bush was the third. Donald Trump is the fourth and fifth, depending on how you want to carve it up. Every single time, spending went up. Spending went up under Reagan, under George H.W. Bush, under George W. Bush, and under Donald Trump, and under Donald Trump again.
Yeah, and the rhetoric was always different when they were the minority party. Even a few years ago, remember that giant omnibus bill that was on the horizon of being passed, and it was ultimately passed, about a $2 trillion omnibus bill? They passed that, and they raked Biden and his supporters over the coals for that. And now here's this big, beautiful bill, which, by the way, seems pretty indistinguishable from Build Back Better, in my estimation, by the way, will add about $4 trillion to the debt. And Massey thinks it's higher because of how it'll affect the bond market. And I think he's right about that. But it's a bigger expenditure, and they're all for it. They're all in. It's like a cult of personality that you just can't break these people from once they're in power. Once you're entrenched in power, you just want to spend, and just throw away all that rhetoric.
And not by a little. Major spending increases. Entire new departments of entitlements were created. I think of George W. Bush's Medicare Part D. Okay, No Child Left Behind was created under a Republican president. And every single time, Rob, they got some story like this. Yes, we're raising spending and adding to the debt and all of this, but it's a big part of this huge ship being turned around. And believe me, in the appropriations process, Rob, that's where we're really going to get to cutting spending. No, you fucking won't. You liar. You big government loving liar. Not happening.
Yeah, I'm with Dave here, and if I'm to make an estimate, I say they pass like $5 billion in DOGE codification, and that's about it. And they raise their victory flags and do laps around Capitol Hill and say, hey, look, we're serious about cutting spending. And meanwhile, they're adding more spending through this bill, through the $1 trillion Pentagon budget, and through other expenditures. Look, this is ludicrous. Between this and the Palantir revelations that have come out soon about increasing the data collection services, as if the NSA didn't do that enough to us, by the way, according to the Snowden revelations. We have all these expenditures too. This is not small government. It's not what the typical Republican activist talks about on the ground. But many of them are fine with being betrayed because of the cult of personality that surrounds Trump. I hate to say it. And some things that Trump has said are redeemable, but often his actions don't meet the rhetoric. Very often.
And then what they count on is that by the time it comes, you'll already be, this will be in the rear view mirror, and you'll be infuriated about the latest progressive thing that they did. And so you'll fall in line supporting the Republicans beside this. But like right now, while it's being like, let's just be clear, spending isn't getting cut. Epstein files aren't being released. Like all of these promises are just not happening. And they're not happening for a reason. And it's because the Republicans don't want it to. They don't actually believe in this stuff. And whatever, let that prediction bear out. Let's see if Mike Johnson's right or if we're right about that. But yeah, I've just seen this game. I've seen this movie too many times.
Yeah, Dave's right. Completely on point in this video. The Republicans aren't passing spending cuts because they don't want to. They have a mandate electorally. Big cultural shift on the back of the corruption and the insanity that was, the Russiagate hoax, the Fine People hoax, the January 6th insurrection hoax. All these hoaxes brought about a mass movement of people that aligned behind Trump and in his support for the election because of the unparalleled corruption that they believed was taking place. And you saw this mandate come to fruition with Elon Musk's support coming into DOGE, but it just doesn't seem like the deep state is willing to entertain the cuts, that the Republican leadership is willing to entertain it, or that the activists are willing to push back at Trump in a significant way, despite the fact that they won't, because that's a big element in the calculus too. When Republicans in leadership do weigh their decision making, they have to say, like, will this seriously cost us politically? And by their gambits and by their choices, it seems like they don't think it will cost them. And I hate to say, in some ways it looks like that's true. I go onto Twitter and see these, right-wing influencers that talk all about small government, but all they can say now is trust the plan, despite how indistinguishable it is from a Democrat plan. That's why we say it's the uni-party. They're spendaholics, and they always have been. Dave's so right. Under Medicare Part D, I think we added like $400 billion right off the bat with that, and that's only expanded because of the number of people that go on to Medicare now, with the surveillance state and data collection, no child left behind, all one-size-fits-all education mandates for the states. Just stupid, and Republicans were all behind this. But what do you guys think? Am I being too hard on the Trump administration and the Republican leadership? Do you see any silver linings in any of this? Do you believe that the DOGE cuts will be codified in any way? Let me know in the comments below. And please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.